Tried to fool me, but you can't fool me, y'all. This camera always wants me to be on mute. I don't know. Is that a sign? Should I shut up? Y'all let me know. Anyways, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm getting ready to head out for the day. Just getting my day started. And I thought we could get ready together while I chat about things I've learned in my 40s that I wish I learned a hell of a lot earlier, girl. I think we're all familiar with that saying, if only I knew then what I know now. It's so funny because I know for a fact we've all heard that from somebody older at some point in our life. And the funny thing is, now it just hits different. Like, it makes so much sense now. Because girl, same. And I don't know if it's just the thing where we all have to go through this. Like, every generation just kind of ignores the generation before us. Like, we kind of are know-it-alls in our 20s and such. And so we all, as we mature into adulthood, say the same thing. Like, man, if only I knew then what I knew now. It's a vicious cycle. But I do feel like, honestly, guys, I really have a lot of faith in the alphas and the younger Gen Zs. The older Gen Zs are cooked, but the younger Gen Zs and the alphas, I think they're actually listening to us, guys. And that is why I will continue to scream from the mountaintops about all of this stuff. Even though my audience tends to skew a little bit older, like most of us here are older, based on my analytics, are millennials, Xennials, and Gen X. Shout out to us. I do have a few youngins. Okay, I do have a couple of you that are younger millennials, that are Gen Zs. And so, yeah, I'm here to scream from the mountaintops until y'all listen. A lot of you call me auntie, and let me just preface this by saying, I don't mind it, okay? I know there was some discourse on the internet a couple months back about that term, but me, myself, personally have no issue with that term. It is literally my favorite role that I've been blessed with in life. I say that all the time. But for those of you who don't know, I was born an auntie. I am the youngest of 6, and by the time I was born, my older siblings already had children, so I was actually already born an auntie when I was a baby. So for me, auntie has no connotation of age, number one. Number two, and y'all can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but just after going through some of the discourse a couple months back on the internet, I believe that the term auntie may have a different connotation in the African American community versus the Caribbean and African community. And I don't want to speak for every Caribbean, every African, obviously, but for me, myself, me and my Jamaicans personally, auntie is definitely a term of respect. It has no negative connotation whatsoever. And it's a name that I love. I was actually thinking of getting myself a nameplate. I used to have a nameplate in the Carrie writing that said Toni. I think it either broke or I lost it. But I was thinking of replacing it with one that says auntie, because auntie is actually a name I hear more often than Toni. Like, I hear auntie every day of my life. So yeah, I think I might replace my Toni one eventually with an auntie one. So let's get started. One thing that I've learned as I've gotten older, with every decade that I've aged, is you're not too old, sis. You're not too old. Please take that in. And you know what? It doesn't even matter the reason. Whatever it is you're thinking about, I promise you, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, man, if only I had done it then when I was younger. You're not too old, girl. It doesn't matter if you dropped out of high school and you're considering going back and getting your GED in your 20s and you're thinking, what's the point now? I'm too old. No, you're not. Because when you're 30, you're going to be like, when I was 20, that's when I should have done it. Maybe you graduated high school, skipped college, and decided to do your own thing for a while. And now in your 30s, you're considering going back to college, going back to school, learning a trade. And you're like, it's too late now. I have a kid. I have this going on. I have this. But when you're 40, you're going to say, if only I did it 10 years ago when I was 30. And yes, even the whole kid thing. If you're thinking, man, I can't believe I didn't have kids yet. I'm already 39, 40, but it's too late. I'm too old. When you're 50, you're gonna say, I could have had a 10-year-old. So, girl, you're not too old for any of it. I promise you. Pro tip. Do a light spraying of setting spray on top of your concealer before you use your setting powder. It'll really help the setting powder melt and not give you like a cakey look. So yeah, girl, whatever that thing is that you're thinking of doing, do it. Register, make the call, enroll, call the doctor, do what you need to do. If you're considering it, you're not too old. My eyes are watery today, so I'm hoping that they cooperate while I'm doing my makeup. Another thing that I've learned in my 40s that I wish I learned actually in my teens is, girl, did you know that your frontal lobe, the front of your noggin, your brain, does not fully develop until the age 25? I'm gonna repeat that. Your brain's not done growing. Your brain's not done developing until you're 25. I wish I knew that when I was a teen. I wish I knew that when I was in my early 20s. 100%, I would have put off a lot of major decisions. Number one, I definitely would have put off dating. And if I was a mother, I would highly, highly, highly encourage my children to not date until they're 25. It's funny because in my, what video was it? In my, I think it was my divorce story, which I'll link in the atmosphere if you hadn't heard all the juicy details yet. Yeah, in my divorce story, I made a statement that 40-year-old Toni, so, current adult Toni, would never have given my ex-husband the time of day. But unfortunately, I met him at 19, and 19-year-old Toni did give him the time of day. I was surprised that I got a lot of pushback on that. A lot of people were saying that didn't make sense. It was nonsense because, if he didn't cheat, we'd still be together. And this is part of the problem with the internet is people really don't use their critical thinking skills, because nobody said that. I said if I had met him at 40, I would not have given him the time of day. And those are two different statements. I just feel like it's a really disingenuous argument to say that everything you did at 19, you would absolutely do at 40. Really? I literally do not believe you. Many of you got tattoos in your teens that you don't like in your adulthood. It doesn't mean that you got them removed. Maybe they're still there. Maybe you kept them because they're part of your story. But in your mind, if you had waited, you wouldn't have got the tattoo of, I don't know, whatever was popular at the time. Do you know what I mean? Some of you were teenage mothers, and I know for a fact you would not encourage your own children to have kids as teenagers. It doesn't mean you don't want your kids anymore. It just means that in your grown, fully developed mind, you now realize that you would have waited if you had the maturity you had now. I don't know why that's such a hard concept to understand. It's so simple to me, but like I said, comprehension skills, y'all. On this big, big world that we call the internet, it'd just be lacking. But yeah, all that to say, I would definitely have waited to do a lot of things until I knew my brain was fully developed, including date. But when you're young and naive, sometimes you get caught up. I probably would have also waited to pick my major in university as well until 25. Because again, you're never too old. Back to point number one, there's absolutely nothing wrong with starting college, starting university at 25, picking a major at 25, waiting, in my opinion. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. Speaking of that, the other thing that I've realized as I've gotten older that I wish I knew back then is that the order in which you do things ultimately doesn't matter. This kind of ties into my last point about waiting until 25 to do certain things, or at least 25 to do certain things. Yeah, ultimately, you know what? At a certain age, the order of things you do really doesn't matter. And I know we're all sold this ideal blueprint, But we were sold it because our parents did it, and they were sold it because their parents did it, and they were sold it because their parents did it. And at the end of the day, we're now living in 2024, and the world is so much different for my younger nieces and nephews than what it looked like for me or for my parents or for my grandparents. So I think it's okay at this point to switch up the order. I don't think it matters. Like, I don't think you have to do this linear path of go to school, get a degree, get a job, get married, buy a house, have a baby. If you buy the house first and then get married and then get a job, I mean, okay. If you get a job, retire, and then go to school, okay. I know a lot of people who after retirement go on to further education because now they have the time and the energy and the interest to do it. As long as it's what you want to do. And that's why I think it's important to wait until you're 25 when your frontal lobe has fully developed and you're more familiar with yourself and know what you want to do. Then you won't be persuaded by a potential partner or love interest into thinking that something they want to do is what you want to do. Maybe you're in your mid-30s and you want a child and you're not in a relationship and you just don't see that being a possibility, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe have the baby first because you want a baby. Raise it with your friends. Raise it with your family. You probably get more support that way anyways, if we're being completely honest.
I just had to pause here for a moment because it reminded me of an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Shout out to all my Grey's Anatomy fans. I think it was pretty early on. I think it was in season 2 when two women came into the hospital to give birth, and it was everybody assumed, like it was assumed by everybody that they were a couple, like a romantic couple, and they had to correct the doctors and be like, no, we're best friends. We just used the same sperm donor because they wanted their children to be siblings. And is that not like the best thing ever?
Okay, my eyes are starting to get a little bit watery, so I think I'm gonna just move on to blush. And my favorite blush slash bronzer just finished. I'm gonna have to rebuy it. It's the Milani Soleil baked bronzer, I think. I love that. I use it as blush. I love it so much. It's finished, so I'm gonna have to find it again. Another thing that I've learned as I've gotten older that I wish I knew previously is that you can choose your primary relationship. Mind blown. Did not know that. Because the people that did that in our families were always framed as the weirdos or the crazy ones. You know, the brothers that lived together that never dated, or the aunt that lived with her best friend. They were always labeled as odd, weird, for what I think is going against the status quo. Now that I'm older, I realize that those people are actually the happiest of anybody I know, which is crazy. That we were all told that, you know, not just by family, but like literally by society in general, just through messaging and coding and media, that if you don't want this, if you don't want the man and the 2.5 kids and the picket fence and the dog, something's literally mentally wrong with you. That's wild. And by the way, everybody always laughs when I say 2.5 kids. It's because the American average household has 2.5 kids. So I don't actually mean half a baby, guys. Like, come on. Let's be real. Let's use our fully developed frontal lobe cortex, like full circle moment. That's exactly what I plan on doing in the future, is choosing my primary relationship that does not necessarily have to revolve around romance. It could be platonic, it could be familial, but I'm basing it on what I want for my life going forward. I actually have to get out of here, guys. Like, I am running late. Why am I here? Is this empty? This is my favorite mascara, Telescopic by L'Oreal drugstore. I like it better than literally any high-end mascara I've tried. Lancome's probably my second favorite. The Definisil is probably my second favorite mascara. And I'm a mascara girly, so So I think you guys can trust my opinion. I definitely choose mascara over lashes, even though I did finally learn how to put lashes on. So if you haven't tried telescopic and you are a mascara girl, yeah, try it out. I'll link everything I use down below. I actually really have to run right now, you guys, because I'm late. So I'm gonna just go throw on some jeans and a t-shirt. Let me know if you guys want a part 2, because I've learned a lot in my short time here on this planet. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.